Hi, Rosio. I said I would send you a tutorial on how to do this animation, to turn this guy into a running animation. But nothing was actually showing me or showing you exactly what you need to do. So I decided I was going to make it myself. And so take a look at what I've done here. I've taken your JPEG that you sent me, but I've divided it. You probably have this as divided limbs already, but I took this and took the liberty and divided this into limbs already. You can see what I've done here. I've basically separated each of the limbs like so. I've also painted in the behind section, so you can see that, for example, the leg here, for example, now goes up higher than the shirt, just so that when things move, we don't see any of the seams. So there you go. I've just done this. I've used a sort of a rough gouache brush to sort of approximate the brush that you have. So I've taken this Photoshop file and I've brought it into After Effects. Now, I've already done a fair bit of work with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I've done here. Then I'm going to progress and I'm going to take it a little bit further and then I'm going to continue the video. But I just want to show you what we want to do. So I've separated, again, like I mentioned, I've separated all those into separate layers. But I've also separated my timeline into seven, roughly eight distinct sections. And this is what we normally do when we do a walk cycle like this. So let's see what I've done here. I've actually put some layer markers here. That's what these are across the top. These are the composition markers, so they can mark certain points in the timeline. You can see I start off with a full stride right, and now in the middle, I have full stride left. So what we're trying to do is create a full run cycle. So when he has got his right leg forward, we want to go all to the point where his leg goes to the back and then comes back forward again so that we can just cycle that as a running animation. So in the middle, of course, we would have the opposite. Now, I've only animated the arms so far. This is where I wanted to get to the point so I can show you how this starts off. I'm going to end up sending you this file and you can complete this or you can start from scratch and do your own if you would like. I'm going to take this just a little bit further. What I'm going to do now is add I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to animate the arms and sorry, the legs swinging in unison with the arms. But then I'm going to add some puppet pins. That's what this tool is right here, the puppet pin tool. And I'm going to add some pins to this just to show you how we can make the limbs bend and do what we want them to do. But again, like I say, I've got this already divided up here. You can sort of see how I've divided up the timeline. This will become even clearer when I take this to the next step. So I'm going to stop this video now, and then I'm going to take this a little bit further, and then I'll send you this video. Okay. So you can see what's happened here. Now I should probably mention something here also. Before I started rotating this or animating this, I did change the anchor points for each one of these limbs. You'll notice what I mean here. The anchor point by default is usually at the center of the object, as it was here when it was brought in, it was over the knee. But the center point is now over the hip where I want it to rotate. And the way we do that is we use this tool over here. It's called the pan behind tool, but it's also got the name of the anchor point tool. So if I click on that, I can click on that anchor point and move it wherever I want. And now I can see that the rotation will happen around that point. Command Z a couple times. So I just wanted to mention that. So you can see what's happened here. I have put in, well, I really haven't done very much at all. If I reveal the keyframes that I've got for these layers, don't freak out. I'm going to push the U button to reveal the keyframes. So here are the keyframes right here. There's some in the middle, there's some at the beginning, and then I just duplicated these ones at the beginning and I created those again at the end so that we have a loop. So you can see as this runs through, there we go. I have a couple of small ones just here, but that was just, this leg got a little bit long at one point, so I had to shorten it. But then that's all I'm starting with. The next point is I'm going to add the puppet pins so that we have a little bit of more natural movement. Don't worry about the slowness of that. We'll speed the whole thing up when it's all done. But right now, let's just get all the pieces where they need to be. So the next bit, he's going to have some puppet pins in. Okay, Rosio, this is where things get interesting. I have taken each one of the limbs and I have put puppet pins into them. I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a moment. But what I've done with those puppet pins, that's what these little items are here. If I go Command Z, let me zoom in. These little yellow dots are our puppet pins. And if I click on one of them, you can see that I can deform the shape that it's associated with. You can see how that has updated there. Go Command Z. In that way, I've been able to get the limbs to, you can see that the right leg has been done here. Don't worry about the left leg, the leg behind. I haven't done that yet. I'm going to do that for this demo here. But you can see how that leg is now deforming as it goes, and now see how it's supporting the weight of the body as it goes through, and then it bends, and then as it comes through, you can see the knee bends, and it comes forward. The back leg now supports the weight, and then it comes back to the way it was before. Let me just play that for you. You can see how there's a couple of small little hitches in there, but generally that's working really well. I've done the legs, the arms, and the front leg. I'm just going to do this last leg as a demo here, and you can see how this is done. So I'm going to bring my current time indicator right back to the beginning where it says full stride right. I'm going to add, first of all, I'm going to select this back leg. I'm going to add some puppet pins. That's what this tool is here. I'm going to approximately put a pin where the rotation is happening here in the hip, roughly about there. I'm also going to approximate roughly where the knee bends, and that's roughly here. And where the ankle bends here. And finally, because there's going to be some flex in the ankle, I want to put one at the tip of the toe. Now, if I was to click on the knee, for example, and start deforming, you can see that, well, it actually has a bit of a rubber hose quality to it. So there's one more thing we need to do. I'm going to go Command Z. Underneath the puppet pin tool, if I click and hold, you can see there are some sub-tools. One of them is called this puppet starch pin tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of these right down, right where the bone would be. And you can sort of see what's happening here with the mesh. I've got the mesh visible. You can see I can turn the mesh on and off like this. When I have the mesh visible, I can see just what kind of density is going on there. But when I have those starch pins, those act to resist some of the bend. So now I have a leg that is bending a little bit more naturally. I thought this actually looked pretty good. We didn't want to have anything that was too rigid. I like that little bit of bend in there. It kind of matches the illustrated quality of your character. I'm just going to go Command Z because again I'm here at the beginning of my stride. So I want the stride to have a little bit of a bend in, and so I'm moving both the ankle and the toe up a little bit, and I'm giving the knee just a little bit of flex. There we go. And I want to be careful. I don't want to deform it too much. There we go. So there is my full stride right for my left leg. I'm going to move forward in time. So as this comes forward like this, I now, at this point here, I'm going to come here to cross right, and I'm going to make some adjustments to that puppet pin. Mesh 1, there we go. You can see how there is a bit of a breadcrumb trail that we have to follow in order to get to the point that we want to animate. But I can see here now there are the position pins, and the red are the starch pins. And again, for this point here, when the right leg is supporting the weight, the back leg is completely off the ground, like so. Just going to move that like so, and maybe move that up just a little bit so it's not quite, there we go. Okay, so I now have that leg coming from the back and then coming forward as the right leg supports the weight. You can see as that's moving through, and then at full stride left, I'm going to take this guy and this guy. You can see I do have to do a little bit of back and forth. I'm just going to give give it something that looks like that. So there we have that leg as it comes forward from back here, comes forward, kicks forward, and then comes back. Now, at this point, heel left, this is where I want the heel to touch the ground. So I'm going to change my puppet pins like that. As it touches the ground, it's going to come back like that. And at this point here, at cross left, I can see I have a bit of an issue. At cross right, you can see the legs are overlapping, but I don't quite have that same effect happening here. I got to be careful about that. I'm gonna fix that. I want to make sure that the rhythm is right. So I'm going to come back here to this leg and fix that in just a second. But I am going to change the height of this because this foot now has to feel like it's on the ground. By the way, that's what this green layer is. That's just our ground layer reference. So I can, there we go. I'm just going to make sure that that leg is like that. There we go. So as that leg comes down, it now supports the weight. And so the issue I'm having is that heel down cross. This leg, the front leg, is coming around too quickly. And I think that might just be its, well, here, let me play this back and see if I can see that hiccup. Okay, there, that cross is looking pretty good. The toe I can see needs, the toe pin needs a little bit of work. Yeah, no, that right leg is not working properly. It's coming too forward. It's coming forward too quickly. It needs to, yeah, okay. So right here, I'm going to make a change to the left, sorry, the right leg. Choose that. Choose the puppet pins. And I'm just going to take this down just a little bit. Whoa! Yeah, you can see we can get some pretty ugly deformations. We got to be careful about that. But if I'm careful, there you go. I can see that that's starting to look a little bit more like what I'm wanting. There we go. Okay. So there is cross left. All right, let's see. That looks pretty good. Okay. Well, I'm going to zoom out. Now, there's one other thing that's going on here that I want you to recognize. I'm going to come back here to all these layers. Let's just play this. Let's just play this and see how this is looking. That's not bad. That's not bad. Now there's a little bit of a hiccup and I can see a little bit of a problem with the back leg. The reason why it's not looping is that I didn't copy the keyframes from its starting position. So for this back leg here, left leg, I'm going to reveal its keyframes by pressing U. I'm going to select the keyframes for those puppet pins. You can see those are now all selected here. I'm going to copy them because of course these need to be at the end as well. So I'm going to paste those puppet pins like so. Okay. So if I play that now, we should have something that loops fairly seamlessly. Now that back foot, you can see that at one point the back foot loses its shape, sort of the front foot. I got to be careful about those puppet pins and where they're positioned. Now there's a little bit of a hiccup right there. That's cross left. And you know what that is? I don't have this quite positioned in the middle of where it needs to be. I can see that right now that these, in fact, I'm going to take those and position that a little bit further on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's see how that looks. Oh, I think I had that in the wrong position. Yeah, I think now that I look at it, I think my my initial composition tags were in the wrong place, but that's okay. It's easy enough to move those keyframes around. You can sort of see what's happening here. Well, that's fairly smooth. Now, okay, the other thing I want to draw your attention to, you'll notice that there's a bit of up and down movement. I haven't really changed. The only thing that I've changed here in terms of its up and down movement just let me come back here to these layers here. I want to highlight something though that's very important. You'll notice that we have this section here that's called parent and link. And you can see what I've done. I've taken all the body parts and I've parented them to the body and head layer. The reason being is that it's the body and head layer that determines the position of the rest of the limbs because they're all connected to that. So if I want, and you'll notice that as he makes his stride, he goes down, his head goes down, and then when he comes back up again, his head is in a higher position. All I've done there is I've taken the body and head layer and I've animated the position up and down ever so slightly. You can see how it just travels down just a little bit and then up a little bit and then back a little bit. And because the other limbs are parented to that layer, it becomes the body moves up and down as you would expect it. Okay, I know that was a lot, but this was really what I wanted to show you. Now, you are free to recreate this. In fact, I'm going to encourage you to recreate this if you can. However, I'm going to give you this file as well, just in case you want to work with it. Like I say, I wish I had found the proper tutorial, but nothing was really working the way I wanted it to work. So if you have any further questions, though, let's communicate by email, or we can have a Zoom meeting if you would like, and that would be how we can approach this project. All right, Rosio, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.